TV. Today we have a quick update. Of course, we've got a lot of stuff to go over, but there is a new story about Secret Service. The Secret Service agent apparently emailed someone, and we're going to talk about what they ended up saying. Secret Service sniper warns another attempt could be imminent as agencies' failures are exposed. A Secret Service sniper claims that another attempt against the presidential candidate and former president seems inevitable before the day that we all pick our prez, because the attack on the former president, Trump, exposed the weakness in Secret Service security, according to a scathing letter circulating between the agency. It says, quote, "This agency needs to change. If not now, when? The next attempt in 30 days?" The letter, of course, first published by Real Clear Politics. It says, "We all should expect another attempt to happen before November. We've exposed our inability to protect our leaders due to our leadership." Now, he's saying this, basically saying, oh, we've exposed the fact that, we are vulnerable, that we have these things. But that's not the truth. Normally, we don't. And that's the other thing that people should be talking about. He's basically saying that there's this huge gap, and now we've basically exposed what the gap is, but that wasn't supposed to be a gap. And I guarantee you, that gap doesn't happen anywhere else. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about tanks, and of course, tanks spotted now. We're tanks moving. We're going to talk about Venezuela. We're going to talk about Maduro, and we're also going to talk about how they're saying that the U.S. might be just like what is going on in Venezuela if we are all unlucky. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, we are back. And of course, the Secret Service sniper warned against this. I want to get an opinion of Dex. Let's bring in Dex, my co-host / internet brother. Dex James, what is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So this letter that is, I mean, they kind of said this is a current Secret Service sniper. I thought it would be retired when I first saw the headline, and it's rotating around, and of course, people are taking it as, oh, well, there's going to be one. What they're essentially kind of putting a seed in the back of our heads is that there's going to be another one, right? Well, again, you should expect that. If you assume that this kid was a lone wolf and that since he's gone, now the threat's gone, I think you would be crazy. But what do you think about that?
Well, I've got to believe that the threat is still there. I got to believe that, I would like to think they've increased or found their weaknesses and made them and blocked those holes, so to speak, or filled those gaps, so to speak, so this can't happen again. But it also sounds like this person is sort of, saying, no, that's not the case. And, it's unclear who he is. It's unclear because he says he's a 20-year veteran of the military, but also a member of the counter sniper team for the Secret Service for more than 20 years. Didn't say former member, didn't say current member, just said a member of that counter team. So I don't know if he's, used part-time, used, on contract, or if he's full-time a member We don't know. We don't know who the identity is, but it is a pretty scathing sort of letter that's being sent to everybody, especially in the media.
Maybe he was supposed to be the one on that roof, but they just never gave him the call. They're saying that, maybe they've filled in this gap or whatever. The gap was it seems to a lot of people that gap was almost purposeful. It is so preschool level. The fact that the only roof across the street, they didn't have anybody on the roof, and then to say it was because it was a sloped roof, and then to see every camera angle we have of the attempt of a counter sniper team leaping into action from a steeper slope. It was stupid. We all know this. We've been over it for the last 2 weeks. But the event, of course, if that would have happened, if it would have changed just a little bit, we would have been already in a civil conflict. That's my opinion. That's many other people's opinion. But on top of that, I think that we are all thinking, the danger's gone. Whatever plan was there, now they're going for plan B or plan C, whatever's going on. I don't think many people believe that this kid was just a one-off kind of thing. The whole story is very, very sketchy. The whole event is just weird. So, what does that mean? This probably isn't the last one. Dex, go ahead.
Well, if you have concerns like that there was something nefarious happening and you're the former president, like, who do you trust now? Like, how do you even go out in public and think that, you're going to be protected if that organization either is just failing at their job or something more sinister was happening? Like, what do you do? That's kind of the crazy part, which again just sort of leads us to believe something's about to happen again, and get prepared, because I think it's the writing's kind of on the wall with this one.
Well, say the planning was all bad and they forgot that roof. You would think that his Secret Service that he does trust, the Secret Service that's been with him since the beginning, they usually keep the same crew, and from what I've been told, not the ones that couldn't figure out their holster, but there were some that have been his personal team that has been with him the entire time. He likes to keep them by the people that he trusts, these people that come into his house and eat with his family occasionally, according to one interview. So these are the people he trusts. Why did none of them see that there was a roof without a counter sniper or anybody on it? I'm just surprised that in this day and age there would be a roof without one. And again, like, everybody knows this, and it's so glaring and in our face. It's how could you argue that something isn't fishy? Like, it boggles my mind. Go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, you got to believe though. So I could understand it, because you got to think that core team that had surrounded him, that's pretty much the core that goes with him. They walked into that event with him. They didn't say, hey, wherever you are, hang out. We're going to go to the event and then we'll come back and pick you up, so they could check it out. They're relying on the rest of the organization to do their job. So they're walking in there probably just as blind as he was, because their job is to be with him. If they were on the airplane with him, they were on the airplane with him. They got off the airplane, they walked in with him. They're with him the whole time. And he wasn't there in advance to check the place out. So why would they have been there?
Huh. Well, they were able to fly a drone over it, all that. It's like, I guess maybe they should change that then. There should be one of their members of Secret Service that does scout. Just like if you were going into a room, maybe a Secret Service agent goes in first, checks it. Or some of these leaders, if they're getting food from somebody else, they have a taste tester. There's a lot of really crazy countries that they end up, the prime minister or the leader or the prince, they actually have somebody, their full-time job is just to taste the food for them. And if it's poison, then it's kind of like a Secret Service thing, then they're kaput. But yeah, you would think that at least one of his team would go there and check out the horizon. I mean, that's just the simplest thing, especially on an outdoor location. But we all know that. And then as far as civil conflict, now another country is talking about this. There's no coincidence here that all of these countries are going through almost the same exact thing that we are. They're all over the world. We're having all of these issues right now. It's a split divide versus this side versus that side. Now Venezuela is on the brink of a civil conflict after both Putin's pals, Maduro and opposition leader, declare victory in tinderbox vote day. And of course, I say vote day on purpose. You guys know what I'm talking about. Venezuela is on the brink of a civil conflict after both of the pals of, and they have to put that there just to point out, right? Nicolas Maduro and the opposition leader declared victory. The tinderbox vote day has been seen by autocrat Maduro to threaten a bloodbath if he loses the standoff. Official results said that Maduro, 61, had claimed 51.2% of the the opposition candidate, Edmundo, received 44.2% of the vote. But the Venezuelan opposition has claimed victory with their president candidate, Gonzalez, receiving 70% of the vote in their own tabulation. Maduro controls the process through cronies and has been accused by the opposition of course, putting the rig on it, right? And Maduro has blasted them back, saying it was the extreme right opposition that had committed fraud. He threatened justice for those who challenged the results, telling cheering supporters in Caracas late Saturday night, they are ugly faces. The gorgeous ones are the people who are here and noble. So there's a lot of sketchy things going on, and people are essentially claiming right now that we are looking at our own future in what is going on in this situation here. As far as a civil conflict, would Maduro trigger this? Sorry, Dex, I ended up muting you. I apologize.
I'm
Dex,
sorry.
I still have you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, look, as far as this goes, if Maduro doesn't win, he is claiming there will be carnage. And it sounds like, and after what we saw over the weekend, and I don't know, many of you may have seen this, but, and if you didn't, you can just go hop on Twitter and find it. There were just an ungodly number of people just uprising in the streets, taking over locations. We saw what they proclaimed were National Guard people taking off their uniforms and joining in. They had police people taking off their uniforms and joining in with the opposition protests. So there was a big question as to who's in charge and what's going to happen and how far will this go. So that has been teetering, and that was going on all weekend. And it, especially on Sunday when this announcement came out, this is a very, I kind of it reminds me of what Mr. Gilly Bates said that we're going to have, is that we're going to have this selection process, and he called it got hung, and he said it's going to create a civil conflict. And he was talking about what's going to happen here in America in November. And this is exactly what you're seeing, except you could say this is a little different because there's a lot of, it's not necessarily hung. It is, in this case, there's two sides pointing the finger at one another for committing fraud, so to speak, and how it's being performed. Nonetheless, I think the outcome is still the same. If you have a large divide in the country, a significant portion of people on both sides, and they're absolutely not willing to settle on the other side winning, then what do they do? And, this is a country that doesn't have, weapons. They were all taken back in the day. They banned those a long time ago. So, you have people in the streets, it's a much different environment, I guess, than you would say here in America if something like that were to happen here.
And of course, Maduro also had an attempt on his life. We were talking about that over the last week after, of course, our former president almost got taken out. Only he's on the other side of the aisle. He almost got taken out with a drone. And I don't know, actually, didn't we cover something that said that he had like a record number of attempts on his life specifically? Like, I think he has more than many others. Maybe that was somebody else. But I do know I covered the drone coming in, and it was crazy because they were live. There's live footage of it, and you see him and all of his security and the military around him all start looking up, and then you see them basically grab him and throw him down. He did not perish. I think one of the guys that was there ended up perishing. But yeah, it's like there's all this unrest all over the world, and this is going to play a big part. This is Venezuela. This is where a lot of the people that are coming in through our south are coming from. There's just one after another stories coming out about how many are actually starting in Venezuela and coming here. So something is going on. And for people to say that this is our future, that's scary. They also covered up the windows. They did all sorts of stuff that it's just like, man, what is going on in the world? And of course, the streets quiet in Venezuela as the government opposition tussle over the result. They said that streets were largely empty in towns and cities across Venezuela. The opposition supporters were subdued on Monday after President Nicolas Maduro and opposition rival Edmundo Gonzalez both claimed victory. Few businesses were open and public transport was scarce. It said that according to Reuters, witnesses across the country as governments in Washington and elsewhere cast doubt on the official results that kept the incumbent Maduro in power and called for a full tabulation of the votes. The National Electoral Authority said that just after midnight that Maduro had won a third term with 51% of the vote, a result that would extend a quarter century of socialist rule. And I don't know what their limits are or if they even have a limit, but they obviously don't have a two-term limit. It says, but independent exit polls pointed to a big opposition win following enthusiastic shows of support for Gonzalez and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado on the campaign trail. You can see how this could look like exactly what's going to happen here, right? Gonzalez won 70%, said Machado, who had been barred from holding public office in a decision she says is unfair. Rules were violated on polling day, the opposition said, citing its witnesses prevented from attending the counts, among other issues. Gonzalez was not called for supporters to take to the streets and has warned against violence, even as reports trickled in of arrests and intimidation of his supporters. A cacophony of banging came from Caracas, Piatre, and 23 Dinar areas, traditionally major working-class bastions for the Socialist Party. Mid-morning on Monday, as neighbors took part in the Cacilazo, a traditional Latin American protest in which people bang pots and pans. But many Venezuelan voters Reuters spoke to seemed resigned. Maduro yesterday shattered my greatest dream, to see my only daughter again who went to Argentina 3 years ago, said retiree De La Romero. I stayed here alone with breast cancer so that she could work there and send me money for treatment. She's very, very selfless there. Now I know that I'm going to die alone without seeing her again. Maduro has presided over an economic collapse, the migration of a third of the population, and a sharp deterioration of diplomatic relations, crowned by sanctions imposed by the United States, the European Union, and others who have crippled an already struggling oil supply. So, as far as this goes, I don't know what the actual country wants for them. I don't know how good or bad these polls are, but it definitely sounds that there's a lot of fishy stuff going on here, and it is important to us because if you look at the issues that we are currently having, it's almost like that somebody's in cahoots with either our adversaries or even our allies are turning a blind eye to what is going on and why all of these people are coming in. A lot of folks think that it's the Far East that is actually triggering a lot of this migration and even encouraging it or even helping for it or paying for it in some sort of way. Again, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, the hyperinflation has still been an issue there. And I just read that they said the prices have soared with hitting the increase hitting 360% in 2023. So to that extent that, that falls under Maduro, a lot of people look at that and say that's not good and they want someone else. And maybe, they're looking for a change in the fact that the largest, richest oil country in the world, or one of them, is acting and has its entire population feeling like they're the poorest in the world right now.
And I was pulling up, there was the huge Venezuelan blackouts that happened. That was, gosh, when was that? That was a huge blackout in Venezuela. So I guess there was actually another set of blackouts. I was talking about the very, very big ones. We've seen it in all sorts of other countries too. Brazil had these massive blackouts. During all of these things that have happened, when it happened, people thought, oh, this is a trial run for something that might happen here, right? Well, now look, it's like every event that's been happening in some of these countries, it's almost like it's a test run. And do these same countries use the same equipment? Do they use the same systems as we do? That's a big question on my mind. I'm pretty sure some of these do. But again, power going out, what if we get a huge blackout, grid down type of situation right before we go to pick our prez? That's what worries me. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Again, if you haven't already seen it, EMP Shield is a device that can actually protect you against not only an EMP strike, but also a Carrington level event. If you haven't been following Wage's channel, I highly recommend it. He's one of our mods and one of my friends. In fact, he was always a creator. We became such good friends, and he was in chat so often that we made him a mod. He is covering all of the solar events. He texts me every time something goes on. He watches it like a hawk. So if you haven't gone over and subscribed to Wages, make sure to do so. But also, again, with all of the solar activity that's going on, this is another reason why you should be looking at EMP Shield. All of us preppers have looked into this for years, and again, the two main things that a lot of us worry about is an EMP strike from our adversaries, which all of our adversaries have that ability, or a Carrington level event from the sun. It's no joke. Coincidentally, on top of all of this drama that's going on, we're in solar cycle 25, which has been predicted to be one of the craziest solar cycles in our lifetimes and could be the craziest in a 400-year cycle. And again, if we get the wrong one, our entire planet could be in trouble. So again, this can actually protect your devices. It grounds the signal before it fries, and it will keep you running. That way you can get home to your family or get out to bug out. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF for $50 off. Not to mention that stacks on top of any of their sales. All of the holiday sales, anything that you end up seeing, that's going to stack on top of it because it's grandfathered in. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF. All right, and then first of all, thank you, Sweatin' Ministries. I appreciate your support this week. Old combat vet, Gillian Mason, thanks for the regular news. Thank you, I appreciate you. And again, I think I missed you yesterday, so thank you, or Friday. Thank you, Thomas C. Bryan. Thank you, of course, Nevitz, Carlton Sutton, Seeking Truth, Tuck Pup, and Stephen Click. Dex, let's go over Venezuela's military chief backs Maduro, calls protests a coup as new unrest is expected over the disputed the ballot day.
Yeah, so this is a key part. When you think about a takeover or an uprising or anything like that happening in a country, you have to understand if you don't have organization and you don't have power, and I'm not talking about political power, I'm talking about, whether it be firepower or something else that can be used in strength kinetically, you've got to have the military on your side. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go against them. So whoever controls the military typically is going to be the one in charge, and it's rare that you see an overthrow or a coup actually take place without the military being involved. So in this case, they're claiming, at least at the leadership level. Now, what we don't know is, does this spread all the way down? And that's the question. We'll have to watch as this plays out over the coming days, as it plays out over the potential counting, if they even do any other counting, or they give any type of insight, or if everyone just hangs their hat up and goes back home and says, well, we're done. All we did was take down a whole bunch of statues and we'll just live with the results. It depends. We'll have to see. But he has come out and said, look, I'm the military leader and I'm on Maduro's side. So you would assume the rank and file will be, but you have to sort of pay attention to that. Because like we saw during the weekend protests, some of that was flip-flopping, and it was a very interesting thing to see, but that was all on social media. So you have to take it all with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to say it wasn't true, because you could go see it for yourself. The actions and the craziness that was going on in the streets. They literally tore down any semblance of statues or monuments or pictures or artwork or anything related to the current prez or anything related to the socialist party there. So they went nuts, and obviously they're settled down today, but I have a sneaking suspicion this may not be the end of it, and you got to see what the military is going to do, because that's what matters.
Somebody said, of course he's going to support the he's his military chief, right? Well, that rule doesn't always work. When T-Man was in office, his military chief or one of his top generals was essentially calling Xi on the phone or calling his counterpart and saying, hey, guys, don't worry. Everybody's really concerned about, Trump nuking you. I will make sure to call you first. I'll give you a heads up. I'll end up calling you. I'm between him and the button. So if he says, hey, go push the button, I'll give you a ring and I'll make sure you know, which should have labeled him a traitor. But for some reason, he was actually cheered on for that. We live in a wacky, wacky world. Final results adds over 130. Final results in Venezuela adds up to over 130% instead of 100. I think
there's some craziness.
Yeah. Well, also they're basically saying they both got that much or whatever, and the other side got less. But yeah, that was the first thing I thought when I said, I'm like, okay, well, one of them's got to be wrong. And then Karodicus, hey, nice to see you. Mo TBR, so many great people in chat. Harley Berg, if you want to do a quick roll call. Thank you, WizGen. Thank you, Gunslinger. Dystopian Visions, the Ominous Hour. We've got Celtic Warrior in the house, Diana Boss. We've got J-Pass, Patricia. Nice to see you, Mark. Let's see here, Bazoo, Robert Caniff. Sounds like 2020 here. Yeah, well, it's going to be even crazier in 2024. That's for sure. We've got Saskatchewan in the house. Daniel Sen, nice to see you. Sean C., the Postman. Nebraska, Jeffrey Woolidge. Robert Kennedy from Montreal, Quebec. We have Boise, Idaho in the house. Mark from North Texas. We have Tracy Q. Let's see here. Space Monkey, Hoku Pono Pono. Nice to see you. Always lovely to see you. Mirror 504, Guns and Water. We've got Linda Hope, Sin Durden, and Jackie Goodson. Danish Girl, hey friends. Indian Sue from Albuquerque, and so many more. Chuck Hill, Baron, Ilea. Of course, our wonderful mod is here. Thank you for making it. Make sure to go check out your mods over on marfooglenews.com/friends. Ilea, thank you. Appreciate it. And then Venezuela's Maduro, whose presidency is disputed, challenges Elon Musk to a fight. Of course, Elon has been posting nonstop. Well, he's been posting all sorts of things. He actually the last thing I saw before I turned off Twitter for a second was that Elon actually posted his wanted poster from the International Criminal Court or something like that. Maybe it was ICC, or no, it was something about the DEA too. But he's supposedly wanted on drug charges or something like that. And he posted that, and Elon put in it, says, this is real. But if this whole billionaire business and thing doesn't work out for Elon Musk, he seems to have a budding future in combat sports. Of course, talking about how he and Zuckerberg were supposed to also fight. As Musk continues to try to lure Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg into a cage match, another potential contender is challenging Musk to a fight, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The recently re-elected politician, which, again, they're questioning, who is facing allegations that he cheated his way into the office, has made the challenge Monday in a truly bonkers series of accusations. Maduro also labeled Musk as his arch enemy. Social media creates a virtual reality, and who controls the virtual reality? Our new arch enemy, the famous Elon Musk. It says, do you want to fight? Let's do it. Elon Musk, I'm ready. I'm not afraid of you. Elon Musk, let's fight whenever you want. So isn't this funny? This is the this saying that basically he controls the power because he's controlling X, when before it was completely controlled, and we know from the X files, which is funny, the Twitter files, that it was completely messy, it was completely controlled, it was completely manipulated by Gov. And of course now, because they don't control X, now they don't get their way on some of this stuff. I think there's totally connections between all of these countries, even some that are our adversaries. Something fishy is going on for sure. Dex, do you think that they'll get in the ring? I'm pretty sure they won't.
Yeah, I don't think so. But, he also said that in addition to being the archenemy, he said that Musk was trying to invade Venezuela with his, quote, space rockets. Excuse me. So his commentary, it's obviously that he's enraged because this is all coming out right after the time that they announced the results. And of course, Elon has joined in with many others to point out the fact that there's a lot of questions, and he continues to this day. As we reported a moment ago, we said the streets were quiet. That was on Monday. That was after the big Sunday craziness. But then today, even Elon's still posting this, and a lot of other people are showing all of the people that showed up for the opposition leader who also claims that they won. And it was just like massive amount of people out for as far as you can see down the streets, down the parks, everywhere in support of the other person. So it's kind of crazy. So it's a very interesting and contentious battle. I think it's easy for us, if you're looking at the information you see on X, to quickly come to one side and say, well, that kind of makes a lot of sense. And if that's what is easy to do when you're looking at the information there, and that's against Maduro, I could see how Maduro is quickly to be pointing the finger at Elon and calling him, the arch enemy, which is what he's doing.
Yeah, and some people are saying that they see Elon running in 10 years. Some folks are arguing if he's evil or not. I would say
he can't run.
Okay, yeah, because he's not a born U.S. born citizen. He was born elsewhere. So yeah, he can't. I asked the same question. I said the stuff that he's doing, I feel like he's gonna run, and I totally forgot about that before. When I find that out, that rule, it probably would stop us. Not in that case, but in other cases, we could have a really great president. In my personal opinion. There was a couple people that could have filled that thing that weren't born here, but basically grew up here from, almost birth. And then people talked about Barack. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, they can't go backwards and delete our memories, or maybe they can. China says they're trying. The Kenyan was president, so why not Elon? Yeah, neither was Obama. Beth, Connie Easley, Hoko Pono, what is going on? Kamala, maybe not true citizens. Well, I don't think there's no requirement for VP though, right? Wait.
It's not that. It's so people get confused on that. I think the rule is you have to be not a naturalized citizen. You have to be you can be born in America from as long as you're born in the country. Your parents don't have to be. If you are, both of your parents are citizens and in the country and you're born, you're a different status. But to be president, you could be either one of those two. And I think people get confused between those two statuses, thinking you have to be the greater one, which is both parents in the U.S. and being citizens at the same time. As long as you're born in U.S. soil, then you're qualified.
Well, as far as that goes, I could see that too. But who knows? I don't think... If it wouldn't be worth it to somebody like him to be anything less than that. Would he want to be a congressman or something else? Probably not. All right. And of course, JB, I feel like he's the former president. Do you guys ever feel like that after he stepped down from the next one? Doesn't it feel like he's not even our prez now? Like it's weird. My brain keeps thinking that he's just not even our prez now. JB and Lula urge Venezuelan authorities to release detailed voting data. We are actually getting involved in this. U.S. President JB and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on Tuesday agreed that Venezuela must release detailed voting data from Sunday's vote after the authorities friendly to President Nicolas Maduro declared him to be the winner in a result disputed by the opposition. The government, meanwhile, has ratcheted up its attacks on the main opposition coalition, suggesting its leader, Maria Corina Machado, and her hand-picked presidential candidate should be arrested. The National Council, which is loyal to the ruling United States Socialist Party of Venezuela, has said that Maduro won the party. And, of course, the opposition says that its candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, secured more than twice as many votes as the incumbent. JB and Lula, a Maduro ally, agreed on the need for immediate release of full, transparent, and detailed voting data at the polling station level by Venezuelan electoral authorities. So I wonder if now we're calling it out, everybody's calling it out, saying release the information, what's going to end up happening? Something big is here. This does have a lot of meaning to the U.S., especially with what is going on. Something massive is happening right under our noses. There's another part to this, and I'm going to go over to Dex for this. Dex, go ahead.
Well, look, time has now passed. I don't know if it's enough time, but nonetheless, if Maduro controls the whole thing, which he has, and everyone has claimed, and he's got, as they called it in the earlier article, his cronies running it, wouldn't it make sense that if he were to release the information, he's going to release information that's going to show in his favor? Like, I'm remiss to think that this is the actual solution. I think there has to be, it's not like, hey, if you say you want it, then you're the one that needs to provide the proof. When you control all the cards, well, of course, he's going to lay down the cards he has, and the ones up his sleeve he's going to hide. So I don't know that I have the right solution or even think that there is one, but there's gotta be something else to this. Or we're just going to be left in this world where we don't know the truth, and both sides are just going to become even more divided. And that'll probably, again, raise up and ratchet up the tension and bring them closer to this civil conflict, because if they can't bring about a true answer, a truthful answer to this information, then and even if he does come out with one, will anybody believe it? That's the hard part.
By the way, and somebody asked if they used that certain system that nobody's allowed to talk about that started with a D, and I think it has minion in it. That system, I'm not sure if they do. I'm pretty sure that Brazil does. But either way, the same systems that are used around the world, they are used in a lot of these countries, and that's another reason why a lot of people are questioning this. But if it does come out, there are things that are happening that a lot of people kind of connect with fishiness, like covered windows while tabulating and things like that. So something is going on. We know this. What is next, though? That's what we're trying to predict. We're trying to see the patterns here. I believe this is going to play a bigger part in the United States than many people actually know. First of all, 7.7 million Venezuelans have left the country since 2014. I bet that number's way too low. I bet it's not accurate. And where do you think they went? Where do you think they emigrated to? I don't know, but what is crazy is when they do ask folks on the street, there's been now countless independent people that are going out and asking some of the folks that are coming over, and they're asking where they're from. Not the official numbers, I think, are way too low, but a huge percentage of them are Venezuelans. And they have now emigrated, and now, of course, you have the largest exodus in Latin America's recent history. They're all leaving. Where do you think they're going? Yes, bing, ding, ding, ding. People are saying here. Yeah. And then hyperinflation that soared past 130,000% led to social unrest and mass emigration. We think that our inflation is bad. We're talking about hyperinflation. Real quick, I want to pull something up, and this really creeps me out considering how connected this person was. Let me see if I can find this real quick. This is just nuts. This is a tweet from Jack. Okay, this is Jack Dorsey. This was October 22, 2021. So it was after everybody got into office, all that. This was a few weeks before he stepped down. Hyperinflation is going to change everything. It's happening. Hyperinflation is different than just regular inflation. hyperinflation. By him saying that, and it says it's happening. He knows, I guarantee you he knew something we don't. I guarantee you that Zuckerberg knows something we don't. I hate to mention it again, Leave the World Behind, the part of the movie where he says, you know, maybe there isn't anybody pulling the strings. Maybe there isn't. Maybe the best that these super, super, super rich and elites get is basically a heads up. I think partly that's true. I know that there's an, you know, big group that they all meet up and talk, all that. We know that's proved. But is the best that they hope for is a heads up. Did Zuckerberg get a heads up? Why did he just build a $270 million mansion/bunker? Come on, people, wake up. Something bad is coming. It's not hard to see. It's easy to say, hey, let's be positive and forget about it. But you could also be positive, be completely pumped up that we're just even here today. The fact that you're breathing, you're not dying this second, that is a good thing. And some of you may be. That's the thing. Life is very precious. And if it is coming in a month or 2 months, heck, there are some people that cross the street and they're gone like that. So we're lucky to be here. Don't worry about the future, but definitely prepare for it. Something bad is coming. It doesn't make you crazy to see it coming from a million miles away. It's obvious. It's right in our face. War is coming. I just don't think it's, I wouldn't be able to deny it. If somebody asked me, I wouldn't be able to tell them it's not. War is not the end of the world. It's the start of the new one. And then U.S. tanks and combat vehicles spotted headed for NATO's eastern flank. What do you think that means? Dex, do you want to go over not a good sighting here?
Not at all. So a convoy of American military vehicles has been pictured rolling across Poland's highways as the U.S. Army moves equipment to a site within the NATO member country to boost the alliance's eastern flank. So these were seen in a couple of different locations. The Polish news outlet had reported images of the tanks next to a report of how the residents in the region of both Lubelski and Wielkopolska, I believe is how you say that, they had noticed an increase in the military vehicles traveling on the roads. So they saw this happening. So as we pay attention to what's going on in Europe, and we know that the buildup is happening. We've talked last week about the possibility of moving 650,000 people out in an evacuation from the Baltics area. We've talked about the mass movement of 800,000 potential troops. We've now reached a 500,000 troop readiness for a conflict against Russia. This is not what we do in peacetime. This is what we do in conflict time. This is what they do to prepare, to get ready for. And it's not to deter. It's clearly to advance everyone further down this path of a conflict, and a European conflict, much greater than what's happening in UKR. This is going to be significantly bigger, especially as it starts to branch away from UKR into the rest of Europe. And how it kicks off, we don't know. That's always the interesting question, but there will probably most likely be an event that starts something, and then it'll probably be an Article 5 type event, and there will be tons of questions on who started it and point the fingers at how it came about and whether it was true or not. But get prepared. They're getting prepared. They're beefing it up. They're ready to roll.
By the way, somebody said lies that the war is the end. Read Revelations. I'm not disagreeing with you on biblical standpoint, but what I'm saying is when people talk about World War III, in your opinion, World War III is the start of Revelations. I don't know about that. But what I do know is what they think, and the leaders, the human leaders of this world, when they do this war, I think that it is going to be not the end of the world. People fear World War III so much that they believe that it's just going to be nukes and the whole planet's going to be wiped out. I don't think they will. Obviously, nowadays with technology that we have now and the missiles and everything else, they could destroy the entire planet. I don't think they will, because they have a roadmap. The entire world has already been working together with the WEF, with the Bergs and all of these builders out there, they have all had this plan. So in their minds, this, even if it's really bad, to us, it would be the worst. Say if we went without power for 2 years. You're talking to people that literally have it set up for 2 years. Bill Gates has, under all of his houses, a bunker. He could survive easy. He would actually have a luxurious experience during all of this. People like us would not. In their minds, 2 years without power, or a year and a half without power, and the whole world is getting torn apart, that they see is a short-term thing. They're looking long-term. They're making plans for 100 years out, 200 years out, 300 years out, because they believe they're gods. They believe they should be deciding what happens to Earth. They believe they have the decision-making power to decide what is good for Earth and what is bad for Earth. That's why I believe that 2 years in their scheme of thinking is not much. Now, as far as biblically, after that starts, God could come down. We could look at a rapture. But what I am saying is people are afraid of saying World War III is going to happen, and I think that stems from the fear of the end of the world. Or they naturally associate World War III with the end of the world. I don't think that's true. I think it's the beginning of the new system that they want to bring in. Digital everything. And all of these things that have to be brought in, there's such a drastic change from how we are living right now. They cannot be just put in place, and they can't just say, hey, we're going to give you 60 days notice, and then we're going to change cash money over to digital. They can't do that. They can't say, hey, by the way, we want to take all of those weapons that we've been saying are good. They can't do all of that. The world can't have it all on one system unless there's a greater fear that's greater than everything else for them to say, we have to prevent this from happening, and everybody will get behind it and go, yeah, we never want that to happen again, so we will be willing to do whatever you want. They'll be begging for control. They'll be begging for all of these things. Everything that's going to be put into place will be done under a safety thing. It will be for our good. This is going to be for your protection. This is going to be to help you. All of these systems, including universal income, that kind of thing, these are all things that are going to help us. Meanwhile, the ladder of the capitalist ladder, that's going to be knocked down. They're going to be at the top of the castle knocking that ladder down. You will no longer be able to start at the bottom and go to the top. If you're at the bottom, you're born at the bottom. I think it's closer to a caste system, because how would you get ahead? Especially if they are going to change everything, how we work, AI, all of these things that are going on. Something is going to break, and it's going to break soon, and if people don't start believing that, then they really, really need to at least pay attention. Because I think the signs are going to get so much more obvious. And if God comes down, I would not be surprised. If this is the actual end, again, everybody has their different views, I would not be surprised, but I don't think the actual end will happen by man's hands. Dex, by the way, thank you, Carpenter 177. You need to read about the tribulation in the Bible. Again, well, I'm not getting pre-trib and post-trib started in this chat. Bad idea. You'll have fun for hours down there. But anyways, either way. Make sure to go check out our mods. Thank you, mods, for holding it down there. War Games show in the U.S. could burn through its ammo in as few as 3 to 4 weeks in a war with China. This is according to a commission that is basically saying we need more. This is a crazy stat if it's true. A new high-level profile report on U.S. national defense acknowledged that the Pentagon could deplete its munitions within 3 to 4 weeks in a protracted war with China. The 114-page report published on Monday by a bipartisan commission appointed by Congress warned urgently that the U.S. is unprepared for a sustained conflict with China or Russia, much less both at the same time. Why did that happen? It seems like the presidents before last really, really, really tried. And I remember before I was even doing this, I was watching it and I was going, why are they getting rid of this? Why are they scrapping that? Why are they doing this? Why are they reducing this? And now we're sitting here. You've got other countries that if there's a probable war with, it's pretty scary because their production is already at wartime production. They can make 200 times the amount of artillery shells or 20 times in a month that we can make in a year. And you're talking about our stockpiles that have been given and put and left all over the world. Now we're right at the cusp of a war, and they're saying that we might run out of ammunition in less than a month. Dex, that's a scary thought.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the ammunition point is significant because we've got, Russia pumping out tons of it, and we just invested though. I mean, we talked about that one company that was publicly acknowledged for getting a expansion for shell creation at a pretty high level, and we did talk about that. But that just goes back to the point that we don't have anything. We're not really ready. As much as we think we're the big, bad, almighty, tough country that can, nobody can touch us. If we get into a real conflict, I don't, according to what everybody else is saying, and I tend to believe it, we don't have the stockpiles we need. We don't have the ability to sustain anything. And that's a scary thought.
I'm pulling up right now, if I can find it. Yeah, let's see here. They essentially, if this is it, the U.S. must prepare to fight simultaneous wars, oversight panel says. The Pentagon did studies, the China did studies, and by the way, the other one I believe I first saw covered on the People's Daily, or no, it was the South China Morning Post. That they released a study essentially saying the same thing that our Pentagon found. And then Russia released a study essentially in the wargaming, and they now are using advanced techniques to actually wargame and simulate this all out. The only way that the U.S. was defeated, one of few, was if the U.S. was fighting multiple wars at the same time against peer-to-peer adversaries, essentially the big ones like Russia and China. What is lining up right now? Russia and China are working directly with each other, no limits partners, and also working with all of these other countries. And all of this unrest is happening in this kind of ring of fire, almost like the volcanoes, only the volcanoes are these countries. China is shipping stuff through North Korea down to Russia, and then it's going back and they're switching and sharing. They know that that's the way that the U.S. loses. So they've planned this out way ahead of time. China showed this, and they've been working on this for a long time. They're making the biggest Air Force. They already have the largest Navy. They already have all of these things. You guys know this. I've gone over it a million times. But at the same time, they know that they need to have all of these wars going at the same time to spread out the United States military. That is exactly what is going on. With all this talk, all of these treaties, and then Venezuela doing a vote to basically say, hey, we should take over Guyana. We are talking about backing up Guyana. Ukraine, we're backing up Ukraine with Russia. Israel with Iran. Taiwan with China and Taiwan. All of these, look like proxies at first, but they're not. This is all going to pop off at the same time, and we're going to be split. At the same time, they're developing the technology to not only knock out our power, to knock out our communications, to knock out our satellites, to hit our coastlines, to have people already placed inside the country who are organized and who are literal soldiers. I mean, I would highly, there's no way. We know there's spies in our country, but, you have 120 guys almost in a single file line coming in through the South, all from a Far East country and all wearing military garb and camo and all of this, buzz cuts, 18 to 25 years old. What do people think is happening right now? I don't know, but I sure see that everybody else is getting their production up. Meanwhile, we're kind of dilly-dallying, and we left $700 million in the Middle East. Just left it there. Humvees. We saw videos in our lifetime. We saw videos of terrorists trying to learn how to fly a Black Hawk helicopter. Just like, hey, Joe, come over here. Dude, look at the toys they left. And they were literally like flying around with no instruction, just That's the craziness. And then we leave that there, and then the military industrial complex says, oh yeah, we left that there, now we have to make more. But then we make more and we give it to this country, give it to that country, give it to that country. Then all these other countries, they're all scamming the system too. They're scamming their people. They say, oh, we'll give you this if the US gives us that. At the same time, our stockpiles, they can see the floor. What is going on right now? It's pretty clear to me, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it's getting nuts out there. Carpenter One, thank you for the support. Gillian Mason, GC, I thank you. I appreciate that. New subscribers, a bunch of folks just popped in. Rip Dango, thank you. FC Brandt, thank you for subscribing and welcome to the channel. Mitchell McNeely and Janice Hunter, thank you. And then let's see here. We've got not prepared. Congressional panel calls for a huge defense buildup. Before we talk about that, I do want to remind you guys, if you want bulk food at a really good price, this is our recommendation and our affiliates on this channel we've picked based on if they're going to save your life, help your life through a disaster, whether it be a storm, an earthquake, or SHTF. As far as this goes, there's lots of different brands. We actually recommend more than one. This is the one that we recommend for the best bang for your buck. If you haven't gone over and checked out My Patriot Supply, you can go to marfooglenews.com/prep, and you can get a 3-month supply. And I believe it's a $200 off right now on that 3-month supply. But again, go check for current sales. You're always going to get a discount, and you don't even have to use a code. You just use marfooglenews.com/prep. Freeze-dried food is going to last 25 years, and it is very, very easy to store. You get a ton of food packed in, and it's all protected and ready to go and waiting for you to just basically open it, cook it in water, add water, and you've got almost all of the life of the food brought back to it. It's an efficient way to do it. It is also a very, very time easy one as well. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You're going to help us out. You're going to get a giant discount, and you're going to help independent news at the same time. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. All right, and this would be the time, if any. I don't think they're going to do Amazon or free shipping when it all pops off, but I could be wrong. China's pretty good at it. And then Dex, let's talk about not prepared. Congressional panel calls for a huge buildup.
Yeah, so as we talked about that earlier in the other article, we talked about the ammunition. This is the same panel. This panel, so get this, the panel's put together by Congress. They were supposed to deliver this report by the end of the year, but they got it done early. And they said, well, we've got it done early, so you guys might as well take a look. But it goes on to talk much more in depth about how we're not prepared for any of the conflicts that are potentially coming. And, on one hand, you could say this is a blatant advertising or a blatant call to action to generate a bunch of revenue for the war hawks, so to speak, or the military industrial complex. But at the same time, there's got to be a lot of truth to that when you look at it and you think about the fact that we actually are in particular positions of conflict and not prepared as a country. And, the fact that we haven't been prepared, as they said, in this report, since the Cold conflict, which ended 35 years ago. So they've come out and gone into much greater detail. In addition to just talking about ammo, that was one particular thing that we hyped up and talked about, or they hyped up, but we talked about in the prior article. But this goes on to talk specifically about how we're not prepared to deal with any of these conflicts, especially. And I think the biggest problem we have to worry about is the fact that it's going to happen across the globe. And it's more than likely going to happen in more than one place at once. We've already got that issue right now. We've already got a conflict in Europe that we're paying for, a conflict in Europe that we're producing equipment for, and a conflict in Europe that we're actually preparing for by putting our own troops and other equipment outside the lines, getting ready for something while we're dealing with what's going on in the Middle East, because we've got troops there. We've been hit in certain countries. We've got ships trying to protect the passage through the Red Sea. We've got ships moving into and engaging in support of Israel. So all of that action is happening right now, and that's got us stretched thin. And then we've got what's going to happen in the Pacific. And I think that's, whether it be North Korea and South Korea, the Philippines and China, Vietnam and whoever may get involved, or more specifically Japan, which is both going against China and Russia over land disputes. And that can kick off. And then, of course, the elephant in the room is, when does Taiwan fall to China? Or when does China try to take it? And will it actually fall? And is anybody going to come to the defense? All of that happening at the same time is clearly something we're not really positioned well to deal with. And I think that it's good that they're bringing it to light. It's also scary to think about the fact that we're in this position and the world is in this state, and we're not ready to actually be able to deal with it. And I think we've talked about that for a long time here, and a lot of people sort of poo-pooed it and said, oh, no, we could do anything. We're better than all these other countries. But these other countries have been stocking up. They've been stocking up big time. Even Russia, who's under sanctions, is pumping out more tanks a year, more shells per month than we could do in any fraction of that time. I mean, it's just, we do a fraction of the amount of equipment or a fraction of the amount of shells in the time that they're doing, because they have ramped up their machines and they're going in a full wartime economy. And why are they doing that? Because not only do they have a one conflict in UKR, they're preparing for the big one that's coming in Europe. And they know that NATO is probably going to do something. That's their point of view, because NATO, on the other hand, is saying Russia's going to do something. And it's inevitable.
Europe is preparing. Europe is telling their citizens. Meanwhile, we have this view that we're untouchable. There is something baked into all of us as patriots that these guys can't touch us. We're the hottest around. But the same people that say, oh, well, we're America, we could kick anybody's ass, the same people that are saying that are also seeing what is going on with our government. They're also seeing what is happening with our culture. They're seeing what is happening with our kids. They're seeing what's happening with the brains of everyone. How could you see that and say, yeah, everything's fine? That's almost delusional. Like, to look around and say, yeah, we're good, we're solid, we're the strongest we've ever been. That's lying to yourself. And I know that people disagree. Every time I say that, people get mad. I don't think of myself as any less of a patriot. People, oh, you're making Russia look good or China look good. People say that I'm trying to make China look good. No, I'm not. You don't underestimate your enemy. It's Sun Tzu, Art of War. I know they've read it because you see their actions. Heck, Xi Jinping is copying Mongolia's, in fact, richest man ever lived in all of human history, Genghis Khan. He's doing things that Genghis Khan did. He's sending spies and sending bad info into places that he's trying to invade. Eventually, whether you believe it or not, he's sending bad info in to get people fighting, to start and stir up trouble. That is exactly what Genghis Khan would send in a scout. And then they would be fighting so bad, they'd be at each other's necks so bad, when they would roll in with their troops, essentially they would roll over and boom, they would take that spot. They opened up trade, better trade than everybody else. They knew that was key. Genghis Khan did that with the Belt and Road Initiative. They're helping support all these small countries. They're saying, hey, we'll build you a bridge. We'll build you this. We'll build you that. But you got to pay us back with interest. Oh, you're poor? Oh, you just went through a huge thing and you can't pay us back? Well, we need to have power over your country, or we need to basically make some decisions for you. That is happening. All of these things are happening. Our closest allies for years and our closest kind of business connections, Saudi Arabia isn't answering our calls, rolling out the red carpet for Xi. Heck, our own president and our gov decided it's a great idea when China comes here, roll out the red carpet, clean up a whole place of San Francisco for him to come, flying people with flags to make him comfortable. What in the hell is that? It's like, are we afraid of him? What the hell is going on? So to say that we're so big and bad and we can beat anybody else up, I think that's denying what's been going on the last 10 years or 15 or 20. Look at the map since 1971 or 1972 when China opened up to capitalism and started building things there. That map, more countries were doing business with America, was in blue. 1971, everybody was doing business with us. A time lapse of that to 2018, it's the scariest thing you'll ever see in your life. We'll try to attach that. It's a time lapse, and it goes from all blue, the world is blue, to all red. Everyone is doing business with China, and they're dependent on China. That's scary. Just one more part here, and this is important. Public awareness is dismal, and I agree with this. She said, calling America's security threats blinking red. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a fantastic Freddy. Yeah, there's probably, that's going to be mixed in there too, but there's actual threats. And the other small part here, the threats have emerged or even merged given that many of Americans' adversaries are now working more closely together. The report argues that the U.S. hasn't grown stronger in proportion. Instead, the country has proceeded largely as usual or even with more dysfunction. If you don't call what's happening right now dysfunction or the last 4 years, 5 years, I don't know what to call it. Spending bills passed too late, legacy weapons preferred over new ones, and a public either unaware of the challenges America faces or unmotivated to respond or told everything is okay or we're going to kick their ass. If you have seen what's happening to the military leadership, they're getting cut. All those badasses that we did have 15 years ago that were running our military, almost all of them were just fired. And then why were they fired? A loss of confidence. Why? Because maybe they supported the wrong person. Maybe they had a belief that wasn't okay with the new military. I would say it's not unpatriotic to question your own country. I think it is patriotic to say, hey, there's something wrong here. We have to fix it. Dex, go ahead.
This commission not only proposed all the problems or exposed all the problems as they saw it, they also had their solutions or potential solutions. So first off, they said that we should improve the buying processes and fulfill purchases much faster for the defense and also make innovative weapons. Okay, fine. That's kind of a given. But the other point they said is Congress should immediately pass a supplemental defense bill so that the U.S. can build more equipment, harden military sites threatened by China, and buy more weapons, particularly munitions. Now, I wonder if they go buy all the 5.56 that's out there, what does that do for the rest of the population that likes to buy that? If all of a sudden the military just spends heavily and rebuilds munitions. I'm sure there's other munitions besides that that's important to them. Then lastly, this is the important one you guys should pay attention to. They say the U.S. should consider unpopular ways to pay for these reforms, such as higher taxes or maybe taking money from something like Social Security or Medicare. So not necessarily the best solutions to the problem, but that's what they're proposing. And this is, again, a group made up from Congress that said, hey, commission, go out there and analyze this and come back and give us a report on what we should do.
Now, somebody says, I have too many have far too little faith, and basically says, my Father will take care of me. God will take care of me. Again, I have to mention a line from, it was actually a kind of a quote from Leave the World Behind. I don't know if you guys remember the daughter sitting in the bed talking about the story that she heard on some show. And she talks about the man that was basically out on a boat, and there was a flood, and he was out on the boat, and he got some sort of weather report that warned him about the flood. He didn't go. Somebody in a rowboat came up, and he said, no, I got my trust in the Lord, and I don't need to be saved. I've got God. And the rowboat goes, okay, keeps going. A helicopter comes by and tries to pick up the guy, and he goes, no, God will save me. The helicopter goes. The guy ends up drowning, and he gets to heaven, and he's angry. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? God's like, I sent you the weather report, I sent you the rowboat, and I sent the helicopter, and you didn't take any of them. So you can have faith in God and also prep. That's the thing. There's a lot of signs that are happening right now, whether you're religious or not, you can see them. And a lot of the things that are in your daily life, there might be little things that pop out to you every day that might say, hey, this is a message. This is something, a coincidence, or something that you heard 2 months ago, but now you've seen something on TV or somewhere here, or you heard a news report and you go, wait a second, I knew about that and I saw that coming. You should see what's coming next. And you should have faith. You should have faith, whether you're religious or not. You should have faith that everything's going to be good. But you can also prepare. You can also take the signs that God is giving you, if that's the case. But yeah, I thought I don't know what that line was referring to in the movie. I actually didn't kind of get it. I'm done waiting. But I would say that is a thing too. And then Russian state TV slips in ominous U.S. threats, says our Alaska. Now, China and Russia were just responded to, 2 China bombers, 2 Russian bombers. And I believe we broke history with that because that was the first time that we've responded to both at the same time, flying together in Khorasan. And a Russian state TV presenter has said that Alaska belongs to Russia, reviving an effort pushed by propagandists throughout the war in Ukraine with Moscow that could seize the U.S. state. During a broadcast of the Russia One program 60 Minutes, propagandist Olga Skabevya referred to the U.S. state as our Alaska. Edzhemo, an investigative Russian site, reported on Sunday. Alaska once belonged to Russia in 1867, and it was sold to the U.S. then after Andrew Johnson, president, signed the Alaska Treaty. It gained the status of a state on January 3rd, 1959. Alaska and Russia are positioned about 53 miles apart at their closest point, which is really crazy to think about. Less distance than, I mean, for here in my reference, it's less than Seattle to Tacoma. That's where Russia is from that point in Alaska. So Alaska might be a hot point for all of this to go down. I want to remind you, Fugel fan members actually reported and showed they saw all of these launchers and all of this gear, and they said that massive amounts of defensive weapons were being moved to Alaska over the last 2 years. Huge operation. In some areas, they were putting them where they couldn't even get cars or anything else, that they were moving things out into the middle of nowhere via helicopter and other ways. So I just wonder what the heck is going on with that. Again, do they mean to take that back as well? Or is it Ganda basically making us scared of the red bear that they're going to try to take Alaska because they once had it? At this point, it's getting kind of nuts. And then, Dex, do you want to go over former astronaut Senator Mark Kelly started spy balloon company funded by China?
Right. So look, this is going to have a little bit of a political slant to it, but let's just set that aside for now because I don't want to get into the politics of it. But I'll tell you what it is. He's like considered one of the shortlist runners for the potential VP running mate for Kamala. So that's the angle. But when we've talked about not just him, but we've talked about other people in prominent positions in our government having ties to China, whether it be through visitation, special favor, funding and money, or in this case, it's claimed that this balloon company or space company that he had started or is part of is actually owned and has close ties to the CCNP. So it was reported that the company started out with a focus on space tourism with balloons, But the vision evolved. Maturing our technology, we recognize the opportunity for immediate use case for our technology through remote sensing services to defense, scientific, and commercial customers. So basically, spy balloons is what they're saying. So just an interesting point. You know, we've talked, I know, Adam, you've covered it numerous times. We've talked about, you know, the obvious strange things that go on between China and different people in our government. And here's another one that you can sort of look at. Like, this is very interesting that he started this company. It was included, you know, funding and venture capital from China, apparently. And that's what the report is.
And close ties to the Communist Party. Stephanie Cook, thank you so much for your support. And a shout out. Happy 62nd birthday to Reverend Brian York. Happy birthday again in the shouter if you stick around for that. Definitely gotta Brian York it up. And then you just nailed it, Marv. The most patriotic thing you can do is question the stupid government. Jerry Shirts 99. I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, I've read comments. You're carrying Putin's water by saying that they're so, you know, badass or whatever. I'm not trying to say they're badass. They've got production going. They're in wartime. They are set up better than we are right now. Now, who's to say that we couldn't turn this around and almost instantly? We could turn Q-tip factories and this, whatever. But the scary part is now we've moved many of our factories out of the country to India, to Pakistan, to Malaysia, to Asia, to China. All of these places. How many factories are actually here? Now, I know we know of quite a few. All of those during wartime, they might say, "Hey, you're not making Q-tips anymore. Now you're making bullets. You're not making L brackets today. You're making weapons, whatever it may be." If this kicks off, we're not prepared for it, and I think that everybody needs to start questioning that. Everybody needs to start admitting that we have these gaps. Because how can you fill the vulnerabilities if you don't know they're there or if you're denying that they exist? Obviously, our gov does not have our best interests at heart. That's why we as a people have to stand up and say we need something different. So, thank you, Jerry Shirts. I appreciate that. And then Microsoft hit with another global outage. This gave me just such a gut feeling. Like, obviously, something is up with the CrowdStrike thing. Same again, CrowdStrike was actually connected to that system that we were talking about that Venezuela might have and Brazil might have and that we used. That same system, that was connected with the whole CrowdStrike thing back in 2018. Microsoft 365, it has had several of these events, and we covered a huge hack that happened to them before. Dex, you're a resident tech guy. Why don't you explain what happened here and why people are really concerned about this?
Well, explaining is kind of hard to do because there's not a lot of detail other than what the effects are. So the effects are that they announced they're investigating performance issues that affected the Xbox system, access to email, and then other 365 functions. So 365 is sort of like the rest of the suite of software like Word, Excel, etc., that they offer. So they were having problems. They initially said that it was only impacting Europe, but they also said they've got reports with connecting to Microsoft services globally. They also said they may experience timeout connections to Azure, which is their cloud capability. That a lot of people rent cloud space from them to build applications on top of. So, yeah, what exactly has happened and what's the root cause? I don't know. We don't know. But I think the point is there's lots of people saying they can't access their email. They can't access their applications that they're trying to use to do their jobs or schoolwork or whatever it may be. And, of course, a bunch of gamers are probably saying I can't get on to 360. Or my Xbox, whatever it's called now. Not
Did you just say 360?
360's old. That's like really old, isn't it? What are they on now?
It went like 3 more, but they're on X now. It was.
I think the last one I ever bought was a 360, so I'm showing my age. But
that's like 2010 or something. I don't know.
I don't game, but anyway, there's a lot of gamers out there that are probably
couldn't tell
problems. Yeah, you couldn't tell, right? So, but that's what's going on.
Well, it affects the Super Nintendo, and people are they're trying to duck hunt, but they can't. Yeah. Though I think that's what the kids are playing. Duck Hunt. Quack, quack, pow. Yep. All right. But that's okay. 360 was an awesome system. I think that was like the first one that you could hack and that you could add games onto. Or maybe that was the original Xbox. Anyways, before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. If you don't have anything backed up on the medical tip, obviously we've talked about China quite a bit, but China controls a giant chunk. 93% of all of the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, and 97% of all of the pre-made antibiotics. Those are all coming from China. So if you want to get a backup supply for yourself, just in general, for any emergency, a cut can turn into a disaster. A cut can turn into a funeral. It's literally that bad if we didn't have today's ERs and hospitals and, of course, pharmacies. So if you do want to back up antibiotics, this is a great service. It's very easy. You do a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor. It does not take long, and then you can get yourself a Jace case. It has all of the common antibiotics and basically a kit that will get you through almost all of the commonly prescribed antibiotics. They also have Jace Daily. This is important. So if you are a caregiver or if you take medication every single day, if you can imagine the power goes out tomorrow and you don't have that medication. That's why they have actually come up with this system, which is they can get you a 12-month extended supply of certain prescription meds. That way, tomorrow the lights go out, you have a year of extra medication. Now, once you get this, you can actually rotate it into your normal prescription, so you'll always have a year of your prescription. That way, if the pharmacies close down tomorrow, you'll have the ability to continue taking your vital medications. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. Make sure to use the code MARF, and you'll save with both of those, or either of those, if you end up going with it. It ends up supporting our channel, and of course, it helps you out. Everybody, it's a win-win for everybody. It's better than you're not just donating; you're getting something that could actually save your life or help you. At the same time as helping us at the same time. So thank you guys. Cannot say enough thank yous for anyone who ends up going through our affiliates, but more so the people that share us out to their friends and family. Thank you guys for bringing us to new people. You're really the reason why we are still here. So thank you. And then IDF kills Hezbollah commander behind the brutal attack on the children's soccer field. Just being frank, a lot of people have really shady thoughts about what happened at that field. How did the missile get through, or how did it actually get through all of the systems? Arrow, David Sling, the Iron Dome. How did all of this happen? How did 12 wee ones perish? It's a good question to ask. Again, instantly when that event happened, you obviously know that people are red in the eyes. People are pissed. That is the worst event any of us ever want to hear about. Nobody wants to see that happen. And it garnered instant support for essentially a response. Now, that was the second strike. We talked about both on the show that we just did over on Marfoogle News. But again, Dex, if you want to give more input, it was more me over on news. If you want to give input on what your opinion on this was, and now they've just taken out a major leader.
Well, yeah, and actually, since the show started, we've got other news that goes along with this. If you want to grab it, I threw it in up next for you. And there's not a lot to it, but get this. So not only did they make a major strike, not just in Lebanon, they went all the way into Beirut, which is pretty significant to get that leader. They've now taken out, allegedly, this is coming from the IRG, so the Iran Revolutionary Guard, put this out, saying that Ismail Haniyeh, which is one of the most senior Hamas leaders, was taken out in Iran. And this was in Tehran. So, and he was in Tehran to attend the inauguration of the newly elected president, and he was taken out there. Now, of course, they're pointing the finger that it's Israel. So that means they're saying that they were able to infiltrate into Tehran in the middle of the capital at this event, or during the time that everybody's showing up for the inauguration of their new prez, and take out this high-ranking senior member. So that's kind of fresh information that's just come out in the last few hours, I believe, or a couple hours. So maybe even 20 minutes, as it says in the screenshot. But yeah, that was maybe about 20, 30 minutes ago when we saw that. So yeah,
it is breaking now.
Yeah, breaking.
So they're getting into an event like that, and they're taking out other senior leaders. That is going to trigger something. You can almost guarantee it. That's going to trigger a response. Everybody's worried about this group and others that, frankly, do have a huge force. And in some of the other groups, it's like they've got massive, massive support now. And, of course, Iran, which supports a lot of these groups, they now have money thanks to some certain decisions that were made. Now they've got billions of dollars to move around. So I feel it's pretty clear that part of it is going to escalate. I think it's pretty clear that North Korea and South Korea are going to escalate. I feel like it's pretty clear that China and Taiwan and China and Japan are going to escalate. Venezuela and Guyana, which, again, with this whole Prez pick, right? Oh, I mean, isn't that it? Venezuela, didn't they do the vote to take over Guyana? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that was Maduro. He did that, and many claim. The interesting thing was,
how does that affect it? I didn't think about that.
So when that happened, that's the other interesting thing. So he put that out, that vote, so to speak, to ask the public, should we take Guyana? Should we go back and get our land? And of course, the answer was yes. But the interesting thing was when he put that out, the number of people that actually showed up was minimal. Like, there was no support for him. It was only his diehard supporters. And this is what they're telling us, at least from the opposition side. Only his diehard supporters even showed up for that. That's why the numbers were so abysmal. But of course, they were going to be in favor. And again, they were using that as an example of how he is controlling this process. And it could have been a test process, to be honest, at the time, to make sure he had his finger on everything and was able to control it the way he needed to. That's, again, speaking from the opposition side.
So I get this. If you're a citizen of Venezuela, you're also probably believing, if this guy wins, we're going to war. If this person wins, we're out of war. We're in this, like, we're all in the same boat here, almost in every country. And then, Paris, look at Paris. Paris is going through it. Their president has made comments about getting involved in Ukraine. It's like, oh, well, if we get this person, we'll do this. If we get that person, with that. It's like everybody's going through the same situation. I mean, it's getting absurd. I hope that we have all of this kind of fade back away, but I don't think that's going to happen. Thank you to the Foogle fam. Love everybody that ended up popping in here. Thank you again for that support, and the shout out to Brian York, Mutant Fat Cat, Kimbria, DFW Jackie, Holiday Kisser. Thank you, Chance Paladin, for holding the fort down over on DLive. Jammer, thank you as always. DFW Jackie, thank you, Ilea. Trinity, did I say hi earlier to Trinity? By the way, I don't know if you're still here. I just wanted to say thank you for stopping by. And Trinity, nice to see you. So many people in chat. Absolutely loved seeing you there. So thank you. It is now a certain time. I can't remember what time it is. Oh, that's right. It's time for a shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. All right, there's so many awesome people here. Thank you guys. We have our top supporter tonight. is Stephanie Cook, but of course, use that super to end up shouting out Brian York.